For in-class sketches this week, you're going to be placing a full sheet of marker paper over your second grid, the one you didn't use, the large one, and you're going to be making sketches of 6 things. And then you're going to trim them, put a border around the drawings, and mount them up in a pleasing manner on a large piece of cartridge paper, a full sheet of cartridge paper. We're going to begin with the recessed ceiling and the gable. They can't belong together on the same drawing, but to save paper and you only have to draw the light once, it's a good idea to put them together. Sketch number 2 is a little bedside table. Sketch number 3 is a lamp. It's going to be oversized just so that we have space to do all the little intricacies we need. Sketch 4 is placing pillows on the bed. Seems simple enough, but if you make them too large and they're not centered on the bed, they will look wrong and your whole drawing will look, the bed will look too small and all sorts of crazy things will happen. Sketch number 5 is all about how to create a 4-poster bed or a canopy. And in doing it, you will know how to construct your own. You have to go back to do this, you'll see, to your box form drawing that you completed for part 1 and lay your marker paper over that. You can build up, you see, right from your footboard and your headboard. Sketch 6 is all about placing entourage correctly on a shelf. You need to know how much width and depth and height you have in order to construct objects that will fit easily and accurately on your shelves. We're going to begin with the gable and the recessed ceiling, and once again they can't exist on the same ceiling, but we're putting them together, so you only have to draw the light once. Just remember that the purple lines are for the gable and the red dotted lines are for the recessed ceiling. The big X on the purple line will show you where the light would hang if you had made a gable, and the black dotted lines, the topmost set of black dotted lines, show you the box that would sit on the recessed ceiling that you would drop down to form your light. The little X at the cross on the topmost box, it shows you where the light would actually hang from the recessed ceiling. We wouldn't actually see it in our drawing in this case. There is an area that faces the floor directly, and then there is an area that's facing this way. So, and this whole ceiling now is much higher than originally it was. So our grid won't work up there. We have to find other ways of locating where this whole seating for the light would be. This is what the recessed ceiling looked like in my reference picture, and you can see the part that would be parallel to the floor, then the next part with the crown molding that faces the other way, and then again at the top that little triangle of ceiling, that's ceiling. That would be parallel to the floor as well. I've decided to leave 2 feet for this area that will remain unaltered and will be part of the ceiling. Now I have to go too far when I draw this so that I can see where these 2 cross over. And they cross over there. And it's here that I choose the height for the recess in my ceiling. And I could choose anything. So I choose something that looks good, and I use my vanishing points to carry that along. Now I can vividly see the grid underneath, but it no longer applies to this space, the space up here. So you have to be aware of that. But it does allow you, if you've chosen a lovely chandelier that has length and so on to it, then you'd need to do this. I'm going to just pretend that this is where our light was originally on the original grid. So I'm back to thinking about that original grid now. I don't think it was at all in this space, but I need something to give me a chance to show you how to locate it in its new place. And you remember how you walked it over to the original wall, and you went down, and some of you went it to the eye level, and some, according to the video, went to other ways fine. Other way, I went to the 6.5, and either way is fine. I have to have verticals, don't forget. If you don't have verticals, you can't do any sort of sizing. So, and don't forget your back corner. If you don't have the back corner, and it's just a little bit off. So, okay, now I'm going to use my vanishing point, go through 6.5 feet that I found along the same line on my wall, and I bring that across, and I make a mark here, and I only need one. Remember, I just need one dimension, and I can get all the rest from using that. Okay, so that's the original ceiling placement for my light. Well, if I want to now bring it up to the height of the recess, I just need a vertical line where these collide. The ceiling is here, the original ceiling, but this is no longer original ceiling. This is facing the other way. So it's here. It's the collision of these two lines right here that I need to make the adjustment. So I go straight up, and now I bring this across. And since this came from this plane on the drawing, I need to bring these lines up to find out where this is going to be on this new ceiling. It's very important. It's very important that these all line up all along that same line, that they create a box by themselves. And now I know exactly where that light would be on the new ceiling. So I have to go the other way. Remember, when you're finished with that side plane, you start making the other side in 2-point perspective. You're always going side to side with the corner facing. So there it would be. And you could find the center of that, not by counting boxes this time, because these boxes no longer apply. You would have to now make an X. But it's going to be the same ceiling as the box below, but you could make an X to make sure. Yeah, there we are. It's the right ceiling line. So, just to clarify, that's facing this way, and this is facing below, and this is facing the same way as that is. So you've got one thing that's going this way, and another whole plane that's going this way. And your light is sitting right in the ceiling now, and you've got lots of depth, lots of height. You can also make a gable. If we were to make a gable like last time, that wouldn't be difficult at all. You would just have to find halfway on your wall. It doesn't have to actually be halfway, but it might be easier. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think this is 10. I don't have the added foot on this grid, but to make your gable, you go straight up from the center, choose a point. This would give you added height as well. I'm not using a vanishing point to make those lines. I'm just using that point to give me those lines. I will need the vanishing point though if I go across the ceiling. And this would just go right up off your page. So if I wanted my light to be here, I would just have to bring this up and I would hang my light from here. Now this doesn't apply, but that would be how I would hang my light down. We have this little bedside table over here. Now I'm going to just make something that's a convenient size for me to work with to show you what I have to show you next. And that's how to make the top wider than the base, which is so common on these little bedside tables. So it's not even the same proportions, but it's just going to give me something I can talk to you about here. And we made it 2 feet high, so I can walk it across. Not a bad idea to keep reminding yourself to walk. So this is a rather wide one, but be easier to see. In our case, we have rather a restricted amount of space. So what you would more likely be doing is making the bottom narrower than the top in order for the top to look wider. So that would involve making an X on the bottom and deciding how much smaller should the base be than the top. So this sometimes takes a couple of tries. The first try is usually too much, and then keep using your vanishing points. And this will give you the same proportion. This is a handy device. You can use it for all sorts of things. This sometimes will go all the way to the back. So the only place where you have more width is actually at the front and the sides. So you might need to go all the way back. So you just have to look carefully at your references. And now I'm using these new corners. They will give me my and the top I would leave the same. And just as I suspected, this is too much. It's sticking out too far. That looks a little strange. So you have to be patient and try it a couple of times. We saw this on our mantelpiece as well. We had a smaller base and a higher. And then you have to look to your references to see how long are the legs. Or does it sit right on the floor? Some sit right on the floor, but you might be involved with some legs here. And it's also a good idea to draw all the way around, draw to the back as well. That way you can always, you won't possibly ever see the back leg, but you don't know. And I don't have a vertical up, so I'm in trouble back there. Remember, if you're ever trying to figure something out and you can't figure it out, it's probably because you don't have a vertical up that you need. So to put the legs on, you just put those on. When you're doing the legs, remember that you're going to see at least two sides in perspective. Over here, for example, I'm going to see the inside, and it goes to the left vanishing point, and then I'm going to see this side, which I see more clearly, and it's going to be made by the right vanishing point. When I go this way, I go to the right vanishing point. So again, I see the inside. This is a common problem, that you're not showing all the planes that you need to show, or thicknesses. Often I don't see thicknesses on shelves. That's another area that needs some work. Now, to find the center of this, I can take, if it's 3 boxes wide, I can take a half a foot here and bring it back, but I have to bring it back to the line that matters. Here's the line that matters, this blue line. So I would have to bring that up this way, and that would be my center. You could also make an X, but it's never where you think it's going to be. It's always a little bit different, so you got to make sure you have it in the right place, because there's more space here and less there. Also remember that there has to be a place for hinges. Before you make the drawers, there has to be a place for hinges, so, and a little place for a little bit of depth for the thickness of it as well. So you use your other vanishing point to give you that. So lots to think about. Lots of detailing to do, or it won't look authentic. It won't look real. This is what makes it look more real. And if you're putting any sort of knobs up here, they have to line up. So you give yourself a double line. No matter what shape they are, you give yourself a double line. And this you can estimate. Some of it you can estimate based on what you have already up there. But that's the idea. And to place things on top of it, remember to always use your vanishing points for that as well. It might be helpful to look at how you would approach drawing something as complicated as this lamp. I'm going to make it a giant one so that it's easy to see. Again, we'll choose the boxes that are most square looking. We have a larger, we've indicated with our box, and it's not going to be the same proportions because I didn't want to go above eye level. But we have what would encompass the largest part of what we're looking at. And it's the largest, that largest box. That's what we have here. And then you begin to take away what you don't need of the box. You start with the largest part because you want to make sure that everything shares the same center line. So down here at the bottom, well, there's our center. Now that center has to be maintained throughout the whole height. And always, it's a good idea to complete this as if you were going to make a circle, because it gives you a lot of other information. Now, we have to find a little box within that, and this one looks perfect, so I might just take that one, or maybe just a little bit bigger. So don't stop using your grid for advice as you go along. It's going to... Now, just as I was doing that, you see it touches that diagonal line. And that's helpful because now I know to turn around and go the other way. So having that complete square gave me information. These back and front lined up, so that's where I know this one should be. And these two should line up now too. And you're always using your vanishing points. You never really stop using your vanishing points. Okay, so there's my first box, and it's not very tall. It occurs though later on. So again later on. Now, just to remind you, I'm not doing anything about the proportions. The proportions, these are crazy. Proportions for a lamp, it's going to look like a pygmy lamp, but that's okay. But, see, I need that same box later on, so I can bring it up. Because I've got this later on. So it's about the same width as this part. So I can bring that up and put that in now. Say I want to put this next box here. Now I've got to find a little box in here, so I have to make an X. So hopefully by the end of this you'll see how valuable these X's are. So I'll make my littler box. And I'm stopping every time I go against one of these diagonal lines. I stop and go the other way. That's X is so incredibly helpful. There's my littler box. So I can start to ink a little bit of this in now. So I've got this box. I'm trying to keep my big head out of the way, so and I've got this box, this smaller box. All made from that big original box. And then I've got this box, which is going to have a little thickness, so put that up. And then it becomes a circle. So I need the middle of this top box now. So how many times did we use the X technique to find the middle, to find the... If you don't get this precisely in the middle, it will look very strange. It's going to look strange anyway, but it would look very strange. Now, my lampshade, the lampshade itself is up here. I'm doing my X from corner to corner. And now I want just a smidge smaller, not too much smaller. So I doubt that I've covered everything that you're going to encounter, but in doing these few little things, I'm hoping that it will help you solve some of your perspective problems that you will encounter. So now I've got a new width for my lampshade, smaller box on top, bigger box on the bottom. I've got my smaller box here, my beginning box, my smaller box, my bigger box, and my tube, the tube that runs up the center. My proportions, as I keep saying, are off because I'm wanted to make this big enough but keep it below eye level. Your lamps are going to be below eye level, so it didn't make sense to. Now if you have a round lamp, a round bedside table lamp, then you're going to need to know the circumference of that circle and maintain the center of that circle all the way up. Our headboard was 4 feet high, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's again a standard measure. I won't be able to make it as wide as given what paper I have left here. But supposing it's 6 feet high. So your bed, though, it doesn't begin until half a foot away from the wall. So always remember that if your headboard is starting here and not here, you have to bring the measurement forward. And you do that by using your vanishing point. So in this case, it's above eye level. That's what I wanted to point out, was this measure is above eye level, so it's going to be higher than the proportion against the wall. Slightly higher. We saw this with the wardrobe. So now here would be your new headboard, and we made it half a foot wide. You may have a wider headboard than this, so you would just creep out further and add the other dimensions to your. I don't have a baseboard. That's all right. And you can, if you don't have a baseboard in your, a footboard, sorry, you don't have a footboard in your reference either, you don't have to put it on your detailed drawing, but you do have to represent it on your simple box drawing. I just need to know that you would know how to put that in. So here would be a 6 foot high. Come to the front of the headboard, not the back, but the front of the headboard. That's crucial, that you know to cut the bed off there, the mattress there. And then I end up here. Now this is not difficult. It is not difficult. You just have to have a focused attention. Remember what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how to get there. So it's just a focused attention. You can't stop thinking when you're doing this sort of drawing. To put your cushions up, they would start here, right there, where the mattress hits the headboard. But it would be really helpful to know where the center is. So I needed to know where the middle was so that I could put this one with the same amount of space, well, a little more on the leading edge and less on the distant edge. So I had to figure out what's center so I could get them in the right place. To find the center of your bed, you can count squares. For us, it would be 2.5. I only have 4 here. And you could go back to the wall. Go up the wall 2 feet, or ours would be, yeah, 2 feet. And then you have to bring that across. And there will be a difference, you'll see. It won't be where you may have thought it would be. It's going to be here. So if I'm straddling 3 cushions across here, my first idea, my first thought is, okay, how do I get these on so that they look, I'm putting more space here, but that looks a little bigger than that. Use your vanishing point. You have to impose vanishing points on cushions as well. And then you plan out your space. How big is that in relation to that? And how big is that that I've got left over? So that you can map it out. And when you draw your cushions, remember that they sort of belly out. We're trying to get the illusion of soft furnishings. You've got to leave some depth for them, some space. This one will pop out over that edge. And I should really start with this one. That was a mistake. I should really start with this one because it's going to overlap. So if you can think ahead like that, what overlaps what, and start in that direction, that will help out a lot as well. And then I had 2 more to put up, 2 more on top of this. So I had to figure out, okay, I'm going to give them about that much space. And there was a space in the middle, so I had to consult the middle again. So if I'm leaving that much space on that side, how much space do I leave on this side? And how much of this do I cover up? Because my picture was going the other way, so I had to kind of wing it from time to time. And then I had another little cushion here. And what you end up doing, though, very quickly, is filling up the whole surface of your bed with pillows. And don't let the pillows become too big. If they do, they will make your bed look too small. You can actually use your footboard and your headboard to give you help with all of that. Now you have to determine the size. So maybe it's 7 feet high. So we go up to 1 foot before this all begins. Remember how we walked this across? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there's our 7-foot height. And so remember, you have to have a vertical up, and I'm using the headboard now, just the headboard. You have to have a vertical up to measure. Let's put all our verticals up. That way we can keep our measuring. So that's the first thing to do. Get that headboard up. Let's get the baseboard, the footboard up as well. Now, we put this in as 1/2 foot, which is really just 6 inches. So 6 inches is that big. That seems rather large. We can trim it down, but let's see how it looks. If it looks okay, then we'll leave it. But if it looks too big, here's, I think I've got, this is only 3/4 foot. I didn't put a whole 1/2 foot on this drawing. This is how you have to go with this sort of thing. You have to try something first and be ready and willing to change it remember, it's like a puzzle. It's like a game. And you have to keep playing the game and until you come out the winner. So leave plenty of time for this. And the more you can enjoy the game or begin to like the game, the easier these drawings will become for you. So I'm using my right vanishing point to bring this measurement out from the wall. Even that small half foot, it was crucial. All of these lines where I took it, walked it back to the wall, and got my 7 feet and brought it over. What I'm looking for is the dimension that's on the same plane, facing the same side. I have to use this then, don't I? Because it's on the same plane, facing the same side. Now, when I go the other way, everything else is facing that way. So this is maybe not what you were expecting, but these are facing, this is facing this way, top and bottom. This is facing this way, top and bottom. Now, I don't have the other side. If I wanted to make it square, I would put it in at 1/2 foot. So, and remember, we don't know if we like that. We don't know if we like the size of that. So we're going to just put it in now for the time being until we make up our mind whether we like it or not. So here's 1/2 foot. In the distance, it looks quite reasonable, but up close, it's looking a little gigantic. But your references will tell you. Now this is a place where we ought to make the full square. That way we know that we're missing a corner. The more information you have, and sadly that means the more lines you have, the better chance you will have of understanding what you've just done. As it's not always 100% clear. Okay, so now I'm missing another line here. Now some people are very disciplined and they can put dotted lines for these inside lines as they go, but I don't have that kind of patience. So, but if you do, cultivate that. That will be a really great way for you to begin to win these games. So it's better for me. I don't know if I need that information. I have no idea, but I'm going to have it anyway. So now I can see top and bottom. They make sense. And I haven't finished top and bottom here. There. And I didn't do it over here. Now, I haven't done this, which is crucial. I've got to see, I've got to understand this whole thing. So be careful, watch what you're doing. So there's the wall, there's the 1/2 foot. So I'm up. Now I'm on this line because I'm the one that's closest to the wall. So make sure when you're doing this that you keep your eye on what's the same. So I'm starting on that corner because I need it to come across. exactly there. Okay, so what that's given me is the underside of the canopy. Now I can bring the rest of these lines up. And a thorough understanding of this is what we're after. A thorough understanding of how these corner posters. It's a 4-poster bed with canopy. How that's going to line up here with everything else we have. Now, and remember, you go too far. Now, everybody's different. I find it easier to go too far with those, but maybe you don't. Maybe you find them confusing if you go too far. But it's really the only way to discover where they end. So just keep checking top and bottom. If the bottom is going to the right vanishing point, the top must do that too. One more to do. Okay, so now we have it. Now we know there's how these look. And your headboard would be within that area. And if there's a footboard, there isn't always a footboard. But inside there, whatever you did to one poster, you would have to do to another. So supposing you did keep these the way that they are, and you had a square portion. It began with a square. So this would be the way you could track keep everything symmetrical, keep everything the same. So this big chunky square here is really the same as that one, only they look very different. The reason again for drawing these squares at the bottom is to make you conscious of the fact that you're always going to see two sides. So you have to represent them accurately. Now, if you had a situation where the whole thing was round and round shapes all the way through it, you would need to transfer that information from one pillar to the next. Supposing you had, this will look very strange, but supposing you had, don't forget that circles go over above eye level. Now if this was small, and it would be small, you may not want to draw the circle method to do this. So, but you just keep asking yourself, is it above eye level or is it below? And what else is going on? And you just keep your eye on it. Maybe it starts out as a square, and then it becomes something else as it goes down. It's got to be the... and this is below, so it will have a circle that goes like that. And you may follow this all the way down, but having those boxes, and you're doing it all freehand, but having those boxes is what's going to make this accurate. And then all you would have to do is transfer this information onto everything else. And you would have where that would be here. It would look slightly different. You'd have to find the center of it. So you would have to make your X. Find your center. And start building your shapes around that center. And you'd have to eyeball how wide or how big to make everything, but it could be done. The height of everything, it's facing us. So you can take a measure from there and transfer it to the bottom without any worries. They're going to be the same because the height is the same distance from us. The heights of things, these verticals, they're the same distance from us throughout their length. So that's not a problem. Now, you're going to come up against a bunch of things drawing this drawing, but hopefully some of these little ideas are going to help you figure that out. Figure out how to solve the problem. So there's my true middle. Here's my true middle up here. So the center would be here. And I would just figure that out in pencil, and then go in with your pen and start to modify it. You know how sometimes they have a little, and once you get to enjoy playing this game, you'll want to try all kinds of things, but it really begins with drawing from life, beginning to look at what's around you and making observations. So you could go on to do all kinds of things with that. Adding the detail about the geometric shapes and the simple shapes first. It's important to take a look at how we put things on shelves. So, for example, I'll make this quite huge here. This shelf, it's not what we have, of course, but it'll be hopefully useful. Now with our shelf, we also have a depth for it. So you have to make sure to include that when you're drawing your shelf. So if that's how far back they go, that's how we have to indicate that. And so you're constantly using one vanishing point, then the other, back and forth, back and forth. But this This is common, this. So, okay, so that crosses there, so that'll go across this way. Okay, so this will be the face. And the shelf that we're looking at is right there. So I only have that much room and this much height to put something on it. If I were to put a vase on here and I made it this wide, that's never going to fit on my shelf. It's too wide. So one way to find out is to take the center of whatever it was you were going to draw back using your vanishing point and bring it up at the front, and then you'll know, okay, so the center of that space at that point on my grid is there, depth wise, and I've only got from here to here to put a circle. After that, it's going to be too thick, too wide. So that can be very, very helpful, just to put that simple line in that shows you at this point on the shelf I have that much depth and that much depth and that much depth. That's all I've got. So whatever I put in for the circumference of it, and it wouldn't be a bad idea to put the center of it on. That's all the space I've got. So I can go from here over to here, over to here. But that's it. I can't make it any wider, or it's not going to fit on my shelf. And in terms of height, it's the same idea. If I want to put something tall here, I have to see, okay, how much height do I have here? So you've got to go to the wall, to the shelf wall over here, go up here, and go across. And now I can tell how much space, how much height I have at that point. So I've got from here to here. That's it. I can't make it any taller than that. That's all I've got. So whatever you plan to draw there, if it's a bottle or a whatever it is, that's all you've got. And width-wise, you'd have the same issues as you would here, but I can tell by looking, just by looking, that I've got enough for that. That's not a problem.